thing I like to say, and a lot of people hate me for saying it sometimes, is that no one goes to a show for a drummer, a guitarist, and a bass player.
I
It's been
see.
like this since the dawn of time. No one goes to see a band because of the members. They go and see a band because of the front man. You look at anyone from Falling in Reverse to Escape the Fate to A Day to Remember to Beartooth to any of these bands, they're all going for one single person. When a band blows up, Spirit Box, it's all about Courtney. When a
We do
band
love
blows
Courtney.
up, oh yeah, incredible. Um, what do you call it? Lorna Shore,
Yeah, we
all
want
about
Will.
Will.
We want those animal
Yep,
noises into the hellfire. Let's go.
it's literally all about that one person. No
Yeah.
one cares about anyone else. There are bands, of course, where the other members are doing most of the heavy lifting, most of the heavy work, and are the leaders of the band. But for the most part, yeah, it I think it does fall on the vocalist from time to time because you're the face of the band. You're the image. It's up
Mm,
to you to have the reputation and the backing, not only social media wise, but live presence wise with socializing and doing different things that like it's up to you as the face of the band to be your main selling point. And if you're not, your band won't get anywhere. You know, you go to a label, you go to anyone who's going to be backing you with money, they're going to look at your image. They're going to look at the center of your image, who is 9 out of 10 times your vocalist and your front man, and they're going to be like, okay, so what's the story about this person? How are they online? Who are they as a person? What do they believe? Not necessarily what they believe in, but definitely like looking over, social media pages and making sure there's no like questionable things, making sure that they have like, just making sure that that person can represent their brand the best way possible.
yeah.
Um, and with me, it wasn't even like necessarily um, forced upon me. It was more of a choice, and it kind of came down to being like, once my band broke up and we got into this position where we had to write new music, we had to get more shows, we had to figure everything out. I was like, all right, well, this is my band because I'm the original member. This is my everything. So, in a way, what I say goes. Obviously, I respect everyone if they have time, if they need, like, hey, we have a tour and they can't do it, or if we have different things that they can't do, of course. But it comes down to like, I'm gonna do all the management. I'm gonna do all the leader stuff. I'm gonna do all the booking. I'm gonna do all the things that I need to do. Get us a record label. Get us the opportunities we need. Because in the end of the day, I just feel like it falls on me because it's like I'm the face of the band. It's my band, and it kind of comes down to like not a trust situation, but a situation where it's like I don't want to wait for someone else to get me an opportunity. I want to make that
Mm,
opportunity. So I just feel like I can do it, so I'm gonna do it.
right. And that's where the responsibility comes in. And you made me think of something else too. Yes, those types of responsibilities do naturally fall on a lead singer in a lot of cases, and particularly with the new band that we're just getting to know. Particularly with the band that we have no frame of reference for, so we got to look at the guy who's making a lot of noise up front,
Yep.
because that's our only frame of reference at that point. I do think, particularly in cases like Typo Negative, like Aerosmith, like Guns N' Roses, once you build some longevity, then the rest of the world wants to find out, well,
Yep.
who's behind. Like now, I want to know about the rest of the group, the rest of the guys. Now, I want to know more about this whole operation and what it is about it that is so successful. At least that's speaking as a fan, that's one thing that definitely piques my interest, and that's why over half my library is rock biographies, just to learn like how they did what they did, and what were they thinking whenever they were making certain decisions that led them to be the success that we know them today. Tell me more about navigating vocals and being a booking agent, because I don't come across that too often.
I will talk about that one second. I just wanted to touch on what you just said. The funny part about the
Oh,
fact that you mentioned all those older bands is back then people cared about the bands and their members. Nowadays people
ah,
don't because if you pay attention, like I have a half sleeve for Escape to Fate. I have, all these other bands that I've loved for decades now. If you follow any band past 2000, even the 2010s, 9 out of 10 times they don't have original members except for the vocalist.
Hmm.
Whereas back then, like back in the day, that necessarily didn't happen. You still had the same members for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and there might be one or two changes here and there, but like look at Escape the Fate. And if they ever see this, guys, I love you guys. Don't take any hate for
Ronnie
this.
Radke, please.
No, you guys, like they've been through so many member changes in the past 2 decades that it's like the only person you remember 9 out of 10 times is Craig or Ronnie. And
Mm.
even then, the only other person is going to be Rob on drums or Max, who was the original guitarist. No one ever cares about like the other guitarist, really. It's all like that, you know? Whereas back in the day, that wasn't a thing. You had Slash, you had these other people that were very, very famous because they were the instrumentalists they are. Whereas nowadays, you just have bands cycling members like it's a fucking claw machine or something, and they don't even care.
So what's the difference?
The difference is
Yeah.
music is I feel like, I don't know, I feel like not just music, but I feel like the world is just different. I feel
Mm.
like when you go and you watch documentaries, you go and you look, I don't want to say it was easier, but I feel like touring, doing shows, making money back in the day was a lot simpler than now and even 10 years ago.
Okay.
We hit a point where 70s, 80s music, 90s music, these different things from hair metal to pop to, you know, tons of bands getting songs in movies and TV shows and different things like that, to where they were able to financially make one hit wonders and live off of it. You don't
Mm.
really see that anymore. Even in the early 2000s, you would have like one hit wonders and a band would live off of that one hit wonder,
Yeah.
and like vibe off of it. Nowadays, when do you ever see that? It's just singles, 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 singles. We need to get as much music out as possible.
And
No one
maybe you
just,
remember them and maybe you don't. Like
yeah,
I know Chumbawamba today, but do I know who was on the pop charts 2 years ago? Maybe. Like,
no,
if we're going one hit wonder to one hit wonder, like if we're
yeah,
speaking in those terms, so it sounds to me like perhaps listenership has changed. The way
yes,
we
oh,
listen to
yeah.
music is different. Maybe we were a little bit more willing to be patient, at that time because technologically we had to be, number one. So we would
Everything
just,
was physical.
right. We had to be a little more patient. Now it's kind of like, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. We know what we need to know pretty quickly.
Well, it's the same concept as, and I think it was Franz talking about this. Um, the fact that back in the day, whether it was before the 2010s, whether it was after the 2010s, whether it was the 90s, 80s, 70s, whatever, just an example compared to after COVID. COVID is the main, COVID's the
Mm.
main point.
Hmm.
Anything prior to COVID, albums, albums, albums,
Right.
because you could sit down with a producer and actually create a story, actually create a template, and actually create an album that goes from start to finish and release it. You didn't necessarily need to have singles. You didn't necessarily need to have this big TikTok push or this big ad push. You just had to release your album, do everything right with touring and marketing, and be successful. And that's why when you go back and listen, there's so many albums that are impactful from every single decade up till COVID. Since
Mm.
COVID, there's really been only few and far between albums that are actually impactful.